Hi, Bart. How are you today?
Good. Habitat. Thank you. Thank you, Kim Carance. So how about this one? What do you see? What do you see in this picture? Yeah, thank you for putting stuff in the chat. Hey, got some oysters, some crabs, maybe. Um, yeah, I will add that this picture is not from these parts, but yeah, farming. Thank you, Shad. Big water filters, love it. There's already this environmental connection I'm seeing. So keep these images in mind because we're going to get back to them in just a second. Diver, yep, cool, thank you. Let me switch back to the presentation. So as I was introduced, I am part of the NOAA Chesapeake Bay office, and this presentation really is all about kind of connecting career opportunities to opportunities to address environmental challenges. And that's one of the things that I feel very fortunate and privileged to be able to do as part of the NOAA Chesapeake Bay office. As an organization, NOAA's mission is really to enrich folks' lives through science, whether that's letting you know what the weather's going to be so you can have a good day out there on the boat, or maybe even knowing how global carbon dioxide outputs are increasing temperatures in certain places around around the planet through climate change. But our agency really conducts science and research from the surface of the sun to the bottom of the ocean. And our whole mission is to do that work, but make sure that that work gets into the hands of people that can use it to make informed decisions. And so as an educator for NOAA, that's one of my biggest goals or aspirations, is like connecting folks to the tools they need to make good decisions about what they do next, what they do 10 years from now, what they do 50 years from now. And NOAA is a huge agency. You might be familiar with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration because you've checked the weather. And NOAA has an entire portion of our agency that's dedicated to forecasting the weather, including warning us when big challenging things happen. Personally, I work for the NOAA Fisheries Office, which does some regulation around fish, but also does a lot of work around habitat and habitat restoration, things along those lines. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on NOAA, but in our office, I love to see the oyster comments a minute ago, because we do a lot to help restore and preserve oyster habitat around the Chesapeake. We also do a lot to help inform policies, and we do work in environmental literacy by doing some classes for teachers, classes for students. We actually fund education programs too. So that's us. So back to these pictures. Rightly so, you all identified in this picture in the top left a bunch of kelp, a crab, underwater habitat, and then in the lower right, somebody doing some ocean farming, right? They are farming a critter in these cages underwater, and those critters are actually scallops. This is an image of a farm actually in Japan, where they're doing a lot of scallop-related aquaculture or farming. And so this image here is kind of calling out, like, all right, if you take, you take some seaweed, you take some scallop farms, you take some oyster farms down on the bottom and mussel chains up there. Man, what you have here is a pretty awesome system, right? That you have created and managed in a pretty small geographic area. And I want to introduce you to a recent hero of mine, this guy, Bren Smith. So Bren Smith is, he's a fisherman. He's a fisherman off the coast of Maine, fished for cod, fished for lobster, and that was his life, bread and butter, until that job got a little bit too much and the fish weren't as plentiful and he could not make quite a living. And Bren witnessed all of this happen. And what he did with his experience, his love of being on the water, his interest in actually feeding people good, healthy products from the world's oceans, he actually developed he was part of a group that helped develop a whole idea called ocean farming. And this ocean farming idea not only feeds people, but like people called out in the chat, it provides habitat for other fish. The oysters, the scallops, the mussels that are there, they filter the water. The kelp, the seaweed that's growing, it actually stores carbon. That food as a source can go to cows, it can go to people, it can go to chickens, what have you, but it's all this amazing productive food potential, conservation potential right in the oceans, offshore, in the water that nobody really owns, right? And so he's taken that and he's turned this into an ocean farming enterprise that has made him a successful ocean farmer and a leader in this entire place. And he did it to address some challenges, not just the challenge that he met, you know, when the cod fishery disappeared for him, but also challenges that exist out there broadly throughout the world. So this slide right here is the United Nations sustainability goals. So the United Nations is a big international organization that has, in these sustainability goals, they kind of outline some things that we really, really need to work on if we're going to address some of the challenges globally that we face. And we face a lot of these right here in our own country. And if you're just looking at these buttons or these icons on this image, Bren's Ocean Farm helps address which one of these topics, which one of these sustainability goals. And you can go ahead and put that in the chat. I'll pause for a second while you maybe put some of that stuff in there. Yeah, 14, life below water. Thank you, Chef. I'll wait for a couple more. 6, sure. Clean water and sanitation through the filtration efforts. Sure. 13, climate action. 2, zero hunger. Love it. Yeah. 9, industrial innovation and infrastructure. Yeah, to support all that agriculture and then moving that stuff on. These are great. Keep them coming, please. 15, what's that one? Life on land, too. Yeah, we're going to feed people and things out there. So I called out just a few that Bren actually mentions, and he's addressing hunger issues by farming ocean waters to provide food for people around the country. And aquaculture, ocean farming is great potential for being able to, as a food source for people. Decent work and economic growth. This is untapped potential. The US is probably one of it takes the least advantage of our waters to farm than any other country, well, many of the other countries across the globe. So there's a lot of economic growth and potential there. Life below the water, putting things into systems with mixed critters really helps things move forward. Climate action, the sequestration of carbon in here. These ocean farms actually help kind of reduce wave energy as it moves towards shore too. So it actually protects shoreline. And responsible consumption and production. He's growing stuff right offshore, brings it onshore, ideally we'll sell it very closely. And we have water all around us in the Chesapeake Bay region, both in the Atlantic and in the Chesapeake, that might be a great place for some kind of farming, whether that's oysters or seaweed. So these United Nations sustainability goals, we're gonna just focus on one, and that's the climate action one. And really, I wanna highlight this one because I think this is one of those places where there is so much opportunity for future careers that if we think in a solutions-oriented way, it's really, there's a lot of potential for finding careers out there. And also, it's something we need to deal with, and we need to deal with it really soon and very effectively. So I'm gonna ask a question. And this is another one of those chat things, so I would appreciate folks chiming in the chat, and you've done awesome so far, and I'm thankful for that. But what comes to mind when you think of climate change and global warming? Just like, and this is more, you know, it's feelings. It doesn't necessarily need to be the science of it, but yeah, it's a fact, yeah. Melting ice caps, ice melting, yep. It's a problem that needs to be addressed. Yeah, heat. Yeah, it gets warmer. The floods, the sun. Excellent. Yep, more ice melting creating challenges like flooding, which Annapolis people, Anne Arundel folks, yeah, bye-bye Outer Banks. That is one of my favorite places too. Well, turns out when you ask a survey sample of American people, United States citizens, or people that live in the US, what do they think of first? They think of impact, a lot like we just did. They also think of the causes, Like it's something that humans have enabled through our burning of fossil fuels, really is the biggest thing, and some of our land use practices. So those causes are what a large chunk of things are. And here's the thing, but when you bring up the term climate change, only 3% think of solutions. So this is why I'm saying, hey, there's a lot of opportunity in the solution side of the climate equation. And that's what we're gonna dig into here for the next little bit. All right, so I don't know if folks have heard this, but one of my favorite books, got it sitting right here on my desk, is this thing called Project Drawdown. And Project Drawdown is essentially, it's a map and a pathway for like comprehensive strategies, tools, resources, ways that we can reduce the amount of carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions that are going up into the atmosphere, creating this blanket that traps heat and warms the planet. And what Project Drawdown is after, they're after a point in time, which I really hope is in the near future, and I think is, when greenhouse gas levels are no longer going up, but they start to curve and ultimately start to trend downwards. This is very important to addressing the challenges of climate change. And so what Project Drawdown has done is they've outlined all kinds of opportunities for addressing these carbon emissions. And for the maritime people, one of the key things is effective and efficient ocean shipping. And so we all know that, you know, probably our iPhones, right? Our water bottles, like anything you can grab that's within hand, you know, distance from you probably came on a container ship from somewhere. And so that means that there's a lot of energy being used to transport stuff around this country. But if we can do that more efficiently, all the better. I think some of the speakers later might talk a little bit about some of the boats that they run, but ship design is key to efficiency. And they can put modifications on ships like bubblers that put a little air bubbles underneath the ship and lubricate it, move it faster and far more efficiently across the ocean. They can put ducktails, these little flaps on the back of a ship that create some pressure that help reduce the drag on a ship and again, make it more efficient. But also, those are big design issues, but also like what you paint the boat with, how clean the propellers are, how efficient and well-maintained the engine are. Those all things make the ocean shipping more efficient. And that stuff doesn't happen magically. It happens because people do that work. So that's a whole set of jobs that exist out there to address those challenges. 1 minute left in the session. Okay. Nuts, I thought I had it until 2:55.
No, we got about 1 minute left, so if you can wrap up, that'd be great.
Okay. So similarly, offshore wind. If you love the water, you love being outside, you like taking risks and hanging from windmills, wind turbines, great opportunities. And there's training to go along with that. My whole point here is that there are great jobs associated with all these solutions, whether you're solar installers, wind turbine technicians, or contractors that actually run solar companies. And it turns out these are some of the fastest growing jobs in the country. So by 2029, fastest two jobs, wind turbines, solar installers. Think about it. And not only are you doing that, you're addressing some of the challenges. And even now, we have a new president, and this president has a plan for addressing climate change through infrastructure, through jobs, and all that sort of stuff brings me back to 3% solutions. These solutions are what we can work on. These solutions are where a lot of opportunity for future careers exists. And if we can up that number of 3% and just recognize that whatever career we go, if we can find solutions to the big problems, like the sustainability goals, they equal career opportunities that not only make you money, but they provide, they do a whole world of good. And a lot of them exist in the maritime industry. So with that, I'll say thank you. And I have one more thing. I got one more quick thing. I'm sorry. And that is, if you students are really interested in some of this stuff, we have upcoming this Mid-Atlantic Climate Change Education Conference where we're actually doing a student session. And if you're interested in talking more, learning more about this, I know this was short, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email's on the screen, and I would love to talk to you, exchange ideas, and join us in the NOAA booth this afternoon. And we'll look forward to seeing you.
All right, thank you, Bart, so much. As everybody can see, there was a lot of ground that we could cover here, and he picked up just one small slice of it, and we really appreciate him being here. And he is going to be in the exhibitor hall under the NOAA. When you look under, going back to the exhibit hall, look for NOAA, and he will be there. And that's where I'd like for y'all to head now, back to the exhibit hall, and you'll have an opportunity to explore some of the businesses and organizations and educational resources that we have there, and then come back here at 1:10 for our second special session. So go explore.
Thank you. Sorry for going a little long.
You're good.
All right.